BBC Radio Sheffield. So it's about 26 minutes past 2. It's my pleasure to welcome Chris Futrell to the studios of Radio Sheffield to talk about, well, among other things, what would happen to you if you thought it was, if for you it was Thursday, but for everyone else it was Wednesday. It's a complicated thesis, but it's a very interesting book that Chris Futrell's written, starting with that. We're also going to be touching on the Great Train Robbery, Harold Shipman, Elizabeth Taylor, the Ashover Show, and lots of other kind of unlikely things that connect. Chris Futrell, thanks for coming in. Your book is called by sort of Muddled Daze, and it's about somebody who's very muddled, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. It just struck me as a very intriguing topic, which opens up a lot of possibilities. If somebody knew what was going to happen on the Thursday and then had Wednesday again to see whether they could alter the process of history.
Where did the idea come from?
Well, I think, the great thing about writing fiction is you can make up your own rules, and the idea of playing with time, obviously lots of people have thought of, but this just seemed to offer the possibility of either him pursuing it for good or ill, and all the moral dilemmas that would present. Apart from humour.
What everyone assumes you'd do if you could do that is back some horse so you know for certain he's going to win next day. That would be the way forward, wouldn't it?
Yes, well, he does try that. And one of the things about the book is that the outcome in each circumstance is fairly unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I leave a lot of the sort of technical answers about time sort of hovering in the air and uncertain to hopefully give it more interest.
Thank you. We can talk about the book in particular. I want to talk about Chris Futrell first as well, if we can, about what's happened to your life. You live these days in, I think what you call in the book, a idyllic cottage somewhere in Derbyshire. Whereabouts is that idyllic?
Well, it's between Chesterfield and Matlock, and it's in the parish of Ashover, which is a delightful parish, beautiful countryside on the edge of the Peak District, and our cottage is just above Ashover on the hill known as the Fabric, and the views are absolutely stupendous.
There's a nice
real
beer pub in the valley there as well.
Yes, there are several very good pubs in the area, but Old Poets Corner is a place where they have very good ale, but also they put on various gigs and poetry. It's a very interesting, proper pub.
Ashover, tell me how you got there. You were born in London. You still sound a bit Londony, don't you?
Do I? Well, I'm sorry. But, I'm glad I've kept my accent, really. But, yes, I was born in London, but I came to Derbyshire in the late 80s for work, and I've never regretted it. My wife is from Lincolnshire, so she was quite happy to come to this part of the country.
What kind of family were you born into?
Pretty ordinary family. After the war, my father was a policeman on the beat, and my mother was a secretary and a housewife, because that was quite a common occupation in those days. My father sort of worked his way up in the police force for a few years and then moved into the pharmaceutical industry.
And what was it like having a father as a copper?
I suppose I'd never known anything different, but it did mean we moved a lot, because it was in Buckinghamshire, and the policy of the police force in those days was to move you once a year, and I think it was to prevent corruption. I don't fully understand that, but it was obviously very disruptive in terms of somebody growing up.
So they sent you off to school at some point, didn't they?
Yes, because of the moving around, it was felt that it would be better for my education after I was 11 at senior school to go as a boarder. So I had the pleasure of going to a pretty old-fashioned but very good boarding school.
When you say the pleasure, what were the pleasures of it then?
It was a very good school in terms of teaching and learning and academic, and also very good for sport. So,
but the old-fashionedness was what?
Yes. It really was the sort of old public school type of place, and one of the things I am proud of is that I stopped corporal punishment when I began drinking.
Did you indeed?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
On what grounds?
Well, it seemed so bizarre and cruel.
But everyone was doing it in those days. You're talking.
Yeah, but anyway, I was not in favour of it, and stopped it. So that's my claim to fame in those days.
I think it's a good claim. What happened after the Royal Grammar at High Wycombe?
Well, I went off to university in Bristol, and which turned out to be a wonderful city where I've spent a fair amount of my life. It's a very attractive city. It's not unlike Sheffield, actually.
Boats, don't it?
That's the difference. I think that the docks in Bristol are particularly beautiful, but in terms of the shape and size of the city, it's not unlike Sheffield. In a bowl of hills where you can see, I like cities where you can see the edge. You can in Sheffield, you can in Bristol, you can't in Birmingham.
No, or Manchester, actually.
No.
So, and you read economics there?
Yes.
A bit dull, isn't it?
Well, I liked it. Actually, I like a lot of subjects. I'm one of those people who like more than one thing. But economics, I was always quite good at it at school, and I sort of got drawn into it. But I don't regret it at all. It was very interesting.
What was it? I mean, what was economics in the 1960s?
Well, what I did was very mathematical. It was about equations for getting the most efficiency out of businesses, and so it was quite a technical sort of subject.
I mean, it sounds even more boring than I thought.
Yes, but I did other things. I mean, it was just part of my life. I actually like maths. I'm one of those strange people who likes maths.
So. The second person who sat in that chair this week, Bob Kerslake, the boss of Sheffield, went to university and did maths, and he smiled like you do at the possibility of saying how wonderful sums and maths are.
Well, I assume
most people.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But I find it quite interesting. But as I say, I like a lot of other things as well, so it's not just that that appeals to me.
Before we go to your working life, I want to know what your connection is with the Great Train Robbery. Is it true that you are one of the Great Train Robbers? Or,
well, I'd like to have been, I suppose. But no, my uncle was also in the police force, and he was the head of CID in Buckinghamshire, where the Great Train Robbery took place in the 60s. And therefore he was in charge of the investigations. They called in Scotland Yard, which people would know, but it was the Home Force, Buckinghamshire, that led the inquiry. And so he was in charge of it.
Right.
And I actually went to the trial, which was fascinating. And it was...
Just remind us, I mean, younger listeners won't know what you're talking about, but just remind us of what happened and how they got caught, and who got caught.
Well, I'm not sure I can tell you every detail, but I think it was 1963, and it was a mail train, and a gang of approximately a dozen blackguards from the smoke, mainly, from London, attacked the mail train at a signal, and they did some damage, quite serious damage, to the driver and other people, so there was some nastiness to it. But it was also quite a glamorous robbery because they stole in excess of £2 million, which at the time was an astronomical sum. I don't know what that would be today, but it would be a lot of money. And they were caught in dribs and drabs. They actually hid at a place called Leatherslade Farm in the Buckinghamshire area. And the police actually found the place just after they'd gone, but they picked up clues and gradually picked up one member of the gang after another.
And this included your uncle who was in charge of it, was he?
He was in charge of the investigation, yes, and he wrote a book about it actually, and he only died about 2 years ago, and he's been giving interviews on it right up until every time Ronald Biggs or somebody else connected with the Great Train Robbery, he was interviewed.
The same for him.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because it is one of the great crimes. I mean, you're right. The driver was seriously hurt and it was dreadful what they did to him, but it remains a kind of Robin Hoodie in some ways. They were villains, but
yes, it was glamorised, perhaps unfortunately, but and they made a film out of it called Buster, if you remember. And, so it's one of the crimes that I think will remain in history as interesting.
That was one of the connections I promised you at the beginning. Harold Shipman still to follow.